Now, the last item on the docket today is, drumroll please, hello everybody. Okay, sound. So I have been home for a solid almost 2 weeks now. Finally, it's time to come back to the van and do a deep clean. While I'm doing this so-called deep clean, I'll also be kind of going over stuff that I've learned in the 4 months of van life. Even though that's only a little short 4.5 months, I have learned a lot and I want to share that with you. So the first thing I definitely learned was patience. Now, I have endless, oodles upon oodles amount of patience for people. Inanimate objects, however, zero patience. If you're a long-time follower, you will know how much grief this van has given me in the past year and a half that I've owned it. I often say I expect stuff to go wrong. I knew I was going to have van problems. I knew I was eventually going to have to take it into the mechanic. I knew stuff would break down. But like I said many times in my other videos, I just didn't expect it to happen so much. This van has really taught me that you just got to take it all in stride. And this is stuff that I already thought I knew. I work in the film industry where stuff goes sideways on a daily basis. But this is, I guess, a new type of sideways that I had to readjust and has set expectations differently. So van has definitely taught me patience when it comes to, inanimate objects. So one of the biggest things that I have learned about myself and van life is that I don't think I could do van life with another person. Not in this van anyway. I just need my space, but then also this space, whoop, for me, this space is too small. That also goes for big dogs or just dogs in general. After just living in the van, I know I wouldn't be able to share my space with a dog. As lovely as it would be to have a companion, I couldn't do it. I don't think it'd also be fair to the dog because I don't have that much space and I would not want the dog on my bed. I'm sorry, I couldn't do it. A turtle, however, small turtle, or even maybe a pet spider, probably could do that. Now, a more controversial thing that I learned about myself in the van is driving causes me the most anxiety in my life. I know. I live in a van and I intend to drive to Mongolia and driving causes me anxiety. Driving has caused me anxiety my entire life. No matter how much I do it, it still causes me anxiety. No matter how much I love it. I love going on road trips. It's my most favorite thing to do. I absolutely love living out of a vehicle. Absolutely love going on road trips, yet driving causes me the most anxiety in my life. So the next thing I learned is safety. And yes, believe it or not, it's something that I had to learn. And I'm telling you, when you get that feeling in your gut that you feel unsafe, you listen to it. Every time you listen to it. Anytime that I parked up in a place where I felt unsafe or felt that uneasy feeling in my gut, I gave myself full permission to get in my van and leave and find a place where I felt a bit safer. So not only do I listen to my gut, but I take other steps as well. Like I refrain from driving at night, or if I have to drive at night, I at least know where I am going to stop. I don't look for places at nighttime. In the morning, the first thing I will do is looking where I'm going to sleep that night, or roughly where I'm going to sleep that night, to have that plan ahead, because I don't want to find myself in a situation where I'm trying to find a place and it's super late out, because that increases the chances of sketchy situations. Same with fuel stops. I always make sure that I have enough fuel to get where I'm going, as well as filling up before it gets dark out. Even close friends of mine have had, who are men, by the way, have had altercations while at night, at gas stations. So I took that to heart, and yeah, I find a place to sleep first thing in the morning before I do anything else that day. Now, I do have stickers on the back of my van that do have my handles, and I was skeptical about having those on there, obviously, because anyone could just Google that and then see that I'm on my own and potentially, you know, want to do me harm. But if anything, I have been super, super lucky with my stickers. I only had positive interactions with my stickers on the back, and I told myself the moment that I had a negative interaction, those stickers are coming off. And so far it's all been good. Having said that, let's talk about some pros of van life. Now, while I know this list could be much bigger than what I'm about to tell you, and it could be its own video in itself, I felt it was important to touch on just a few aspects of the pros of van life. The first pro I would say is that the van is a luxury item. I've lived out of cars and stuff. I know what the bare minimum is, and this is not the bare minimum. To be able to have, you know, a fridge, running water, self-generating power, a stove just at your fingertips makes, you know, living on the road really easy, really accessible. So that would be like the first pro, is just like, yeah, making travel really convenient. So the stealth factor of the van, it would be my second point. It's, you know, you can get away with it. Like if you go to a Walmart parking lot and you park up your van, it could just be any old van, whereas if you're an RV, it's really clear and obvious it's an RV. And fair enough, there might be you know, different ways to do alternative like living life that's stealthy and stuff, but at its core, an RV is an RV, whereas a van, you can kind of be a little cheeky. Not only that, but believe it or not, my van or vans can get to more places than maybe, you know, an RV or a truck and trailer or whatnot. You would be absolutely surprised at where vans can go. I know I was, not that I ever want to push my van to that kind of limit ever again, but my goodness, you'd be surprised actually how much these things are capable of. Of course, with the positive, there also comes some negative aspects with, you know, owning a van. Again, this could be probably an entire video in itself, and this is the things that I absolutely did not anticipate. First being, well, there is no time to do anything. Obviously, this can be argued. If you wanted to stay in one place and stop and do work, you can make time, but if you know, you only have 4 months to be able to tour the US and you have a lot you want to see, well, you know, you start to sacrifice in different areas. And so I found that there was no time, especially being a solo van lifer, because for a good portion of my trip, I was driving 4 to 6 hours a day. And when you're driving, that's all you're doing. You can't edit, you can't make reels, you can barely even film, because it wasn't just only the driving. There was also then, you know, life stuff, having to like cook your food and plan your next trip. And I also really wanted to be able to resell from my van, but YouTube videos are my priority over the reselling business, so I had to basically cut out reselling almost entirely from my trip. Didn't really think about until I started driving. The next thing that I noticed that I would consider maybe a bit of more of a negative or a con per se was my back is destroyed. I already had some nerve damage in my back to begin with, so sitting on my butt for 6 hours a day while driving, I'm sure it didn't help. You know, it was just a daily occurrence. Not only that, but my elbows, from holding onto the steering wheel, my elbows now are like really sore. That added an element of difficulty, because then instead of like just being able to get one big drive done, my body wouldn't let me. It could not let me go more than 8 hours, and 8 hours was pushing it, and my body would just be completely done. So I would say that was another con, and I guess that's also strictly for me. I didn't think I was gonna have elbow problems after driving for 4 months. So there you go. Okay. Now, the last item on the docket today is, drumroll please, you don't need a van. You don't need a van. You don't need a van to travel. You don't need a van to do a road trip. You don't need a van to start a YouTube channel. You don't need a van to get on social media. You do not need a van to make you happy. And I want to like be thorough with this, because one thing that I've discovered throughout my travels and talking to people about van life and how lots of people want to do van life, reasoning. And a lot of them's like, oh, I want to go on a road trip. I'm like, you don't need a van to go on a road trip. Get in a car, start driving. That's a road trip. You know, a van is not going to make you happy. A van is not going to solve your problems. If anything, it's going to create more problems, and that's okay. It's the problems you choose. If you want to choose the van problems, go right ahead. But a van isn't going to fix anything. You know, like, that's just sort of like the consensus that I got from talking to people. I feel like people put their dreams and stuff off because I can't do the thing until I have the stuff. You know, like, so I don't know. For me, and my reasoning behind the van was I found myself in a situation where I was either going to have to get a lease on an apartment or I could buy a van. And I did that. I ended up buying a van, and I had the means to be able to buy a van. And on top of that, I already had it kind of in my brain that if I was to ever do a big road trip or whatever, it was going to have to be something that I can stand up in because of my back. And I've lived out of my car. Like, accumulatively, at least a year and a half, I've like lived out of a vehicle. Like, I know, so I was like, oh, if I was to ever like live out of a vehicle again, it would have to be something I can stand up in. And that's why I chose the van. But I didn't also intend to do van life until like my late 40s, but COVID happened, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just expedite that dream to now, and then hopefully, maybe if everything settles down, I can do like the flying around the world sort of thing, later in life. So this for me was always the plan, and I understand that's probably not what people are wanting to hear. I just really wanted to be quite frank about that. So yes, final note: do not need a van. Love my van. Absolutely love my van. Absolutely love van life. Do not need a van. And hopefully that helps in your decision making before you go out and spend $50,000, because yeah, that's what you're looking at spending. And I know there's ways you can do it more cheaply than that, but if you want to add in time and taxes, but that is another topic for another day. Oh, I kind of derailed from the whole cleaning the van thing and got, caught up with just taking everything out and shooting the video. I'm gonna clean up this lovely mess and get the van ready because, believe it or not, I'm handing my van off to a friend who's gonna be having it for about 2 weeks, which means I'm moving into my Xterra. That's right. Speaking of living out of my vehicles, I'm moving back into my Xterra, and that's gonna be a whole thing in itself, which I will share at a later date. Anyway, thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Now, God, all this food I forgot I had. What is it? Oh. Okay, sure. No. Ow.